Good afternoon. Oops. Can anyone hear me? No? Good afternoon. Not much better? Oh no, I'm sorry. Good afternoon? Okay, let me try one. Appreciate it. Lay this down. All right, let's try this. Good afternoon. All right, now we're in business. Thank you. Thank you, Surja. My name is Alicia Yokoyama, and I'm an adult services librarian at Lake Oswego Public Library, and I'd like to welcome you to today's special presentation, Grief Management. Before I introduce our speaker, I'd like to thank the Friends of the Library who sponsored this program and so many other cultural and educational events. The Friends of the Lake Oswego Public Library is a nonprofit organization dedicated to providing enhanced support for library projects of community interest. Please visit the Friends website to learn about their work, including the boutique used bookstores, and how you can join in supporting our library. We also, if you're having trouble hearing me beyond the microphone and technical difficulties, we do have some assistive listening devices in the back at the librarian's desk, so you're welcome to try those out. We are very happy to welcome Surja Tjahaja back to the library. Surja holds an MBA degree from the University of Southern California. He is especially interested in how meditation promotes neuroplasticity and healing. A BRAINET board member associated with OHSU, Surja draws upon scientific understanding in his teaching, as well as his 20 years of meditation practice and chaplaincy experiences. Please welcome Surja Tjahaja.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Lake Oswego Library. Can everyone hear me okay? Hello? Is it better now? Thank you. So, welcome, friends. Today we're going to talk about topic of grief and how to heal from it. Just like anything and everything else in our life, in dealing with anything, doing repairs or doing anything, we need knowledge and skills. Like learning how to drive a car. You want to know what that steering wheel is about, the pedals on the floors, the stick shift, ignition, and then the rest is just a skill of practicing on how to drive a car. In the same way, to deal with grief, we want to have knowledge about it. So that's what we're going to go into today, to understand what grieving is all about. First, we're going to go into understanding what is the elemental, fundamental source of all these things that produces grief in all of us. There's been a lot of publications done on this topic, a lot of study done. So I'm going to give a general background about this thing called grief. For example, by Dr. Mary O'Connor, that make a definition distinguishing what grief is versus depression. And there is a study about how animals also experience grief. I think it's good to know that it's not just human. And we're going to learn about how different culture deals with grief and how they can, as a community, help the grieving family to be able to heal together. Then there is Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who had spent quite a bit of time in understanding about how to work with grieving, with her famous 5 steps, and her collaborator, Dr. David Kessler, who added the 6th meaning of grief, whereby meaning matters. So meaning is very personal, and therefore grieving is a personal matter. Each person feels differently or experience it differently. It is important, therefore, then we go into understanding the knowledge about meaning. What is meaning? How do we make meaning? Can we change that meaning? If we can learn the nature of meaning and how to be able to understand how it is created and how it can change, then we would have the ability to do just that. Changing meaning from something that causes us pain into something that is actually productive, useful, that ends pain. So, since the topic of loss or grieving is a mental phenomena, it's not a physical cut from or a bruise on your body, but it's a mental experience, which fits right in with the whole practice of mindfulness. It's about dealing with the mind. So we're going to look at how mindfulness perspective look at how meaning is created so that we can understand how we can change it if we wanted to. We're going to have a short period of meditation practice that allow us to be able to learn, to gain knowledge, not just from listening from me or reading or any other sources for learning, but to be able to learn on your own, to be able to discover on your own about how the mind works. For example, just a little taste of it, you will notice there are two kinds of thoughts. It's not one. One kind of thought is when you produce it directly, purposefully created that thought, and another one whereby it shows up on its own. So we're going to learn how the mind works, again, for the sake of knowledge, understanding how it works, so that then we can better manage it. So with that, I'm going to start with the first topic. So by nature, the way we are as human beings, as all living beings, there are two powerful forces that power this life. One is the desire for survival. Two, for passing on the genes. This survival and the need to pass on the genes are the two main reasons why grief occur. So, in order for us to survive, socially, emotionally, we need to be connected in a social format. In mindfulness, we call it interdependent. So you can't produce an offspring by yourself. You need someone else to be together with you. You need support. We need each other. And that is not just a psychological need, but also a biological need. So there was a case called Romanian orphanage. And this happens between the 80s to the 90s. When Dr. Fox from Harvard went into the orphanage, he was surprised. It was so quiet. And there are about 150,000 orphans in it. Most of them are very, very young. They're so quiet, he thought, maybe because when they cry, nobody come anyway. They're fed, they're well fed. But 40% of them, when they grow up, requires mental treatment. That's a lot. And all the others also have shown certain behavioral issues such as poor self-image, sadness, depressions, low cognitions, ability to understand things, to learn, is diminished by a lot. So that shows that it's not just a social relationship matters, which it does, but biologically, by design, we need that attachment. And you will see children in the playground that is feeling confident to be far away from the caretaker usually have a much better felt sense of comfort and confidence. Whereas the one that does not play far away and remain close to the caretaker are indication that there is insecurity involved. And this really matters. So not only psychologically, socially, we need that interdependence, but also biologically, it is a necessary component for human being to have this thing called attachment. And attachment is important because any living beings prefer or thrive in an environment that is stable, reliable, dependable, predictable. And the opposite is just harder for any living beings to maneuver life. So these are the two reasons. Desire for survival and the passing on the genes, very powerful forces in life. And therefore, these two factors will manifest into strong emotional reactions. Our emotional experience is hooked on, attuned to survival, passing on the genes. Now, what is OHSU, what I call the dichotomy, is that in fact, in life, all meeting must end in parting. And nothing remains the same. So, I guess it's inevitable. We will all experience this thing called loss, isn't it? So this is an example of knowledge on how with this we would be better prepared and understand better why and what is happening. And with this knowledge, we can help understand how to deal with it better. So, grief is an experience of loss, which is inevitable. Nothing remains the same. Dr. Mary O'Connor tried to differentiate the experience of grief versus depression. So, for example, mourning is a example of behavior of grief. Sadness, but able to function. Different than depression. Although grief can turn into depression. Guilt and regret from unresolved issue, oftentimes with the truncation of relationship, we wish for certain things that would never materialize because that ability no longer there. So I have a student who said, for me, seeing my dad going through dementia, now the opportunity for my father to ever acknowledge all the harm that he had done to me and no longer able to provide the love that as a child always wished for is gone forever. So that is an example of grief. Another example will be a loss of function, your limb, or loss of pets or anything else. And it is different from depression. So these are what Mary O'Connor say depression means. Relentless gloom, feeling helpless. There's nothing you can do about it. Eating, sleeping problems, because it's all in front of you all the time, makes you feel incapable of going through this circadian rhythm, inability to enjoy life, lack of energy, resilience, chronic ruminating thoughts, inability to function, destructive thoughts and behavior, lethargy, numbness, and devastating paralysis. So this grief is a emotional reaction to loss. And according to Antonio Damasio, neuroscientist of USC, emotion is an unconscious phenomenon, different than felt sense experience, which is a conscious phenomena. The unconscious means it just happened on its own. The conscious experience, felt sense experience, means explicit, meaning that one is able to articulate and explain that felt sense experience. Like when you're feeling hunger or feeling arrhythmia, your breathing is not in regular rhythm. So the person who is able to articulate in the conscious format would be able to feel like I own that experience as opposed to unconscious. When we are awake, we are mostly conscious, not all the time, including when we are asleep. During deep sleep, non-dreaming sleep, REM, our consciousness is gone. The sense of self is gone. You cannot even have any dream or any kind of thought. Now, the relationship between the conscious and unconscious is an interesting one, because many people thought what is unconscious is just that. There's nothing you can do about it. But later on, you will see in meditation practice, in fact, your thought has to be, its content and quality has to be in the format that you were exposed to before. You will see that the language of your thoughts has to be in the language that you understand. You cannot think in a language that you were never exposed to. Of course, the question is, can you learn a new language? In fact, yes, you can, right? So therefore, it is clearly from meditation you get to understand that consciously you can deliberately, on purpose, influence your unconscious. And we'll go into that more later on. So let me see where the animals are hiding. Elephants. So when one of their members pass away, they would circle around, put dirt on them, put leaf on them. And they usually go through the same route each season. And when they come back next year, they will remember the spot and will spend time to honor that spot. All right, let's come down the tree. Okay, the monkey. Monkey also grieve. With the passing of their loved one, they would sit, sometimes for days, If it's an infant that they own, they would carry it on their back, a dead body on their back for days. Of course, their behavior change, their appetite is no longer there, and actually some would deprive them of food and pass away. So, we don't monopolize grief. All living beings have this potential. Dolphins would try to support the dead one on the water. Try to, come on there, have some air. Or when else fail, they just sink to the bottom and just sit there, lethargic, not moving. Very similar. Giraffe, with the passing of someone that they care about, they would gather and they would twist their neck together in embrace. Isn't that fascinating? So these are all what science has discovered and explain how this happens. And of course, our closest one, dogs. It is known if the master passed away, the dog would really start changing their behavior, will be whining and change their behavior, just becoming not doing anything much, no longer play, and lack of interest in eating. Very similar with what humans go through. So it is also interesting to realize that there are many different ways in the world on how people grieve and how their community work together to help the grieving family. This might give you some ideas about possibilities. Who knows? You might create one your own, right? So in a Jewish family, there is this thing called Shiva. For 7 days, the family would stay home, sit on a low chair, and they would welcome people coming in, day out, to express their condolences. And for 1 year, they would practice what's called Kaddish, prayer to honor the dead one and to bring God and the community together. So this is an example, and there is a in New Zealand, the native there would actually honor the dead by having a communal. The whole village would go out into a center where they will recite stories, they would sing song and share a meal together to honor the dead one. The whole community would do that. The people in northern India, bordering Afghanistan, there is a culture whereby the wealthy cannot show their emotions in public. So they hire professionals to do the mourning. They would beat their chest and scream in sadness and pound the soil, the earth, and so forth. In Tibet, there is called a sky burial, where actually they would take the dead body to offer it back to nature, to give the body away to the vultures. Of course, there will be chanting, there will be monks, and all kind of rituals. So these are just some ideas, possibilities about how different people in the world work with grief. So Elizabeth Kubler-Ross is a popular person who spent a lot of time dedicated to the dying. Her interest is to bring kindness, respect, and dignity to the dying person. And this is what she discovered to be a pattern that is often in this sequence, but not always. Anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, denial. But I think it's also relevant for those who were left behind also, or a person who is about to lose functions or limbs and so forth. So therefore, there is a certain uniform, familiar experience that is felt by all kinds of people wherever they are born. This is a common phenomena. Well, her partner, David Kessler, requested Kubler-Ross, can I add number 6? And he got the permission. He said, meaning. Because grieving is very personal. So meaning is important. If we can use what was once a painful experience and turn it into something positive, that would be a healing process. So meaning is a very important factor here. And mindfulness is especially interested in this phenomena called making meaning. If we only understand that meaning is not so absolute, which erroneously thought by many people who didn't have the information, didn't have the knowledge, and that's why we are gaining this knowledge, is possible to change meaning. I don't know if you ever experienced children at one time hate broccoli, but now you like broccoli, or vice versa. So these are examples of how meaning can be changed. But those who does not have the knowledge, which we now know, but most people don't, they cling to that idea as only one way. There is only one way of explaining it. And that's why they call it clinging, attachment. So, meaning. How is meaning happen in our brain? This neuroscientist, Michael Gazzaniga, was involved in working with epilepsy patients. And the remedy was to remove the corpus callosum, which breach the left and the right part of the brain for epilepsy. And it worked. But it created two personality because there are two sides of the brain that is no longer connected by this bridge. And what was interesting, when he showed this picture to the patient, closing their right eye, so now the left eye is seeing, and that commensurate to the right part of the brain. So that's how it worked. The left eye goes to the right part of the brain, right eye goes to the left part of the brain. So when it closed that right part of the eye, the patient say, I see a shovel and chicken. So the right part of the brain is designed to see things as it is. And it is one of our artistic part of it, of our thought processes. But when he closed the left eye, the right eye now commensurating with the left part of the brain, the same patient would say, I see a shovel that is used for cleaning chicken manure. Isn't that interesting? So by design, the way we are, our brain is designed to do, is to make meaning. Okay? So biologically, we are designed to make meaning, and the location of where that meaning takes place can be really pointed towards where it is. So, meaning, if we take a look at this particular person's life disaster, Viktor Frankl, his wife was killed in concentration camp when she was pregnant. His brother also killed. His parents also killed. He survived. How does he survive? Well, this neurologist have a book in his jacket, manuscript, about this thing called logotherapy, which was taken away when he entered concentration camp. So he had to memorize it, and he has to figure out how to edit his own book in his own mind. That's one of the things that kept him alive. That is the purpose. That is the purpose that is bigger than him, he think, because his work is so important to be able to share this valuable knowledge that when human has meaning, purpose in their life, then their life become much more rich, meaningful, and able to go through very difficult circumstances. He was actually involved in a group of people preventing other prisoners from suicide. And when he finally free, he went back to Vienna, where he was from. Not to other country, he went back there and published his book, Logotherapy, which is about a man's search of meaning. And I have a feeling this wonderful library will be able to provide that for you. And many other books that I think you'll be interested on any topic of grief or also mindfulness. So, from all of that, it makes sense, isn't it, to turn the loss into something positive is something that can be enriching, fulfilling, beyond pain or loss. Well, it so happened here, this is a most recent Brown University magazine for their alumni. Let me just read a little bit. Sidney Korsner graduated 2015, was a Pittsburgh high schooler. His friend Lauren was diagnosed with cancer. We didn't see her at all anymore as she was in and out of hospital, he says. She died his freshman year at Brown. He wanted to do something in her memory. So he designed a program for children who wanted to learn whatever it is that they're interested in, topic of interest. He would bring people, expert, to their home. And that became his life work. He said he never got another job. This is what he does for the rest of his life. So this is an example. Turning a loss into something meaningful. And it is typically known, people that have depression, the best way is for them to realize other people needs that person. And when that person feels needed, they would go out and be able to provide support for their community in a productive way. So, realizing the brevity and value of life can be a springboard for positive change. Right? And how you do that? Since it is personal, unique, you have to be the author. You will be the one that will best provide for yourself what would work for you, what what is meaningful to you, what would touch you. You can also create ways, rituals to help maybe a grieving family or for yourself on how to commemorate, honor the loved ones. And of course, one thing that one can realize, you can always focus on gratitude, feeling grateful for. You can turn anything into something that is positive that other people can see it as negative. An example will be the weather. Some people would say, oh, Oregon is so gloomy and rainy and so forth. Well, the way I look at it, that's what makes it so green and beautiful. It's not Arizona. Besides, I'm relieved from my job watering the garden. So anything, everything can be seen in this way, friends. Think about it. Think about it. So I have a personal experience of loss. My grandmother. I was first born and first grandson. And in my culture, that kid is precious. So he took advantage of that. Wonderful grandmother, fulfill all his wishes, love him so much. She was my best friend. She knows I am so attached to her that one day we happened to see a movie, a mythical movie about two lovers. One passed away, like Romeo and Juliet, and the one left behind felt so sad. They jump into the funeral pile and they both fly together as butterfly. And my grandmother said, "Don't you ever do that." She loved me very much. Very proud woman. But this tall. I remember one day she was taunting someone, and I realized there was someone stealing her mango. She has a mango tree. She said, "Come down here." And she was like, little, I said, "Grandma." And he said, "Look, if you want it, you can ask for it, but you're stealing it. You come down here and see, what you can do with me here." And the guy took off. But anyway, very proud woman. And she passed away from cancer. Very painful. Very degrading experience. For a proud person now, she cannot even care for herself, clean herself. You need someone else to do that, feeding her. The body shrank. It was quite painful to see. So when she passed away, I do have the option of jumping into and fly as a butterfly, but I learned that pain and suffering doesn't feel good. And it is also true that if she is out there, she wants me to be happy, not to be miserable. And in the sense, I'm really glad. I look at her death as joy and gladness because she's relieved from that pain, physically and emotionally. So I brought the couple of shirt here. This was made from my grandmother's sarong. So over there, the ladies wear a sarong. And I thought if ever need to, I can always envelop her around me and be able to feel her love again anytime I want. So this is making meaning, isn't it? So since grief is a mental condition, and mindfulness is its main focus and interest is about the mind. It has this philosophy about the 5 aggregates of clinging as a way how humans make meaning. So what are the 5? So first of all, there is this object, phenomena, anything. In of itself, it has no value, no inherent value, unless someone came over a subject to create meaning out of it. So this is called dependent co-arising, meaning that the two have to rise together to make meaning. Object and subject have to come together to make meaning. Okay? So I'll give an example of this. When I was very, very small, I came home with my mom, and suddenly she gagged. She went, "Oh!" And I realized, I look at her like she is in distress. And notice what made her distressed was we have what is called a dirty kitchen in my house, and there's 2 kitchens, a clean kitchen for the master to cook if they want to, but the servant do all the plucking the chicken and cleaning the fish and scaling and gutting. Well, there was a raw fish being cleaned out. So, having made that contact with that object, which is smell in this case, to me, this is an unpleasant phenomena, experience. And in neuroscience, there is this fundamental law that is called neurons that fires together, wires together. All right? And this is very important, meaning it's all by association. Meaning if you would reassociate it, the same stimulus with a different meaning, you will have a very different response to it. Okay? So, once that sense contact, make contact with form, then I create a perception. Raw fish is yuck. So at one time, when I lived in Japan, a wonderful Japanese family was honoring me. And in Japan, when they honor a guest, they really meant it, and they put a spread. In this case, very expensive meal, sushi, which is raw fish. Well, when I realized, I didn't know, I came close to it, start to smell it and realize what that is. My unconscious. So this is without any plan. I just threw up right there. So that's my unconscious, isn't it? So the way the mind can cling to that phenomena, because yuck, who wants to eat that? Disgusting. I'm not going to eat that. It's gross. The unconscious, without thinking, just does that to you. What's interesting is that formation, that evolution of throwing up because of my first contact, neurons that fire together, wire together, associating raw fish as disgusting. In later life, I was able to learn to like it. And I made a deliberate purpose to see if I can consciously, on purpose, strategically, to learn to like it. Because it just bugged my mind. How is that guy willing to pay $50 for this lunch, and here, I can't stand it. Why? So I went to sushi restaurant later in my life. I checked myself outside the door. I said, when I come in, I'm going to pick someone. I'm going to imitate everything he does. I sat next to a guy at sushi bar, order anything he orders, ate like he did, smack my lips the way he did. He looked at me time to time like, where is this monkey come from? But I teach cooking classes also. For 30 years of my life, I teach sushi making, the A-sushi. And I learned to love it. And you know what? When I see raw fish now, I don't throw up. I go, yeah, that looks delicious. So this is a real first-hand experience that I know that this can be done. It's just by re-associating. And this neuron that fires together, wires together, if you continue to reinforce it, that connection becomes stronger. And the old one start to disappear. What you don't use, you will lose. And here's another example. English is not my native tongue, but I also work as a medical interpreter. Been doing that 15 years now. When I first doing that, many of my patients have a similar question. How long have you been here? Okay, she asked that, he asked that, and after a while I start to get to like, why? So I asked them, why do you want to know? And they said, your Indonesian is lousy. And I thought that was interesting. And I start to realize my dream is in English. But when I learn Indonesian again, I read books in Indonesian, seeing videos in Indonesian, it come back to me and my proficiency come back again. Neurons that fires together, wires together. What you don't use, you will lose. And your new association and whatever it is that you decide to make new meaning towards can stick. And you can modify your unconscious. So, your consciousness is your memory about how things are so that you don't have to repeat the whole process again. These are the 5 steps. Form, feeling, perception, formation, or volition consciousness. If we understand how human beings make meaning, we can have the ability to manage it, to gain control of it instead of being controlled by, right? Because if you think about it, the way we make meaning, understand meaning about many things, like when you drive, you should be on the left-hand side, is because you're here. You try to do that in Australia, you'll be in big trouble. Okay? So there are options. And there are possibility. And it's personal. And you can influence your unconscious, consciously, deliberately, on purpose, like learning a new language. But it does take the effort of like learning a new language. You got really good to put your effort into it and time into it. Okay? So it's not just an interesting concept, but it's something that we really need to put effort into it, like learning a new language. So, a gentleman named by Reinhold Niebuhr has a very profound essay called Serenity Prayer, where he said, God, please grant me the serenity to be able to accept things that I cannot change, and the courage to change things that I can control, and the wisdom to know the difference. Well, that is wonderful, isn't it? So if I reflect back on my life, there are many, many things that come to me, to my life, or loss of things in my life that is totally beyond my control. Like the weather, I can't control that. Or the death of my grandmother, or how the loss happens in your life. But you can control on how you want to react to it. Does that make sense? By changing the meaning. And the Dalai Lama called that watch out for the second arrow. Meaning that things already happened to me. My grandma already passed away, my best friend, loved one, protector, and so forth. I can respond to that with misery or not. So that second arrow in his mind is how we can harm ourselves from how we react to any phenomena. That is any underlying, any phenomena in the way that is more harmful to us than helpful. So he said, avoid the second arrow. Don't shoot yourself with the second arrow. Harm yourself on your foot. So, if we understand that stress, or in mindfulness terminology is called suffering, doesn't feel good, you're right. Because the body has this thing called interoception, another sense beyond the five senses to be able to feel what's happening to me. And stress, according to Sapolsky, Dr. Sapolsky from Stanford, create all these things, including this one here called Takotsubo myopathy, where the heart would actually change shape. You lose someone that you care so much, you went into such deep grief, your heart changed shape into a takotsubo, which is Japanese word for octopus trap. So the Japanese fisherman uses trap to catch octopus, and the shape is balloon in the bottom. And that's how the heart become when you are in misery, and it's called the broken heart syndrome, which is treatable, but it is deadly. So these are just examples. Not only that it harm you physically, it damages your relationship with yourself as well as with others. It doesn't look any good any way you look at it. So, as we mentioned, it's about knowledge. And mindfulness practice utilize meditation. And many people thought mindfulness meditation is for relaxation. Not really. So the word mindfulness is English. And the word that was translated from is called sati, S-A-T-I. Well, the way it is explained, it didn't say go relax. It says heighten activation. Richard Davidson actually did an EEG on people that know how to meditate. He was surprised himself. It's not relaxation, it's heightened activation. Well, heightened activation means more electrical currents, more blood flows towards a certain part of the brain. And actually, there's a place in the bottom of the brain called reticular activating system. It's just like a alternator in the car, just bring charges. And you get to feel it when you are concentrating, right? You can feel it just right here. So it charges the frontal cortex, bring it alive, and what you don't use, you will lose. But here you keep on using it if you continue to meditate. And that's a part of cognition. So meditation practice actually has a side health benefit for tuning up the brain. That frontal cortex is the CEO part of our brain, which is our mind. It is responsible for making analysis, judgment, making decisions. is the intelligent part of the brain. Also, it has a direct link to the limbic system, the amygdala, because its function is also to regulate emotion. So, science is basically saying, hey, that mindfulness meditation, also known as concentration meditation, breath meditation, is actually have clear benefits to brain fitness and ability to regulate emotions. But in concentration meditation, and I will give you a taste of it later on, is basically we're going to use an object, this case the breath, and remember, not relaxation, but the opposite, heightened activation. When you look at this object, you are commanding, asking your mind to pay attention on the breath, and you will see, you will experience by yourself, you'll be distracted by thoughts that shows up on its own. So that gives you the insight, the knowledge, hey, there are two kinds of thoughts, and they're not the same. And we understand clearly the observer of that thought is the boss, not the thought. But the observer of that thought is the boss. Don't forget that. Because when you look at that thought, like, let's have some ice cream after a big meal, you look at it and say, 5 scoops with all the topping sounds good, but wait a minute. I can always come back tomorrow, right? I just had a big meal. I want to be able to go to sleep, not to be bloated. I'll do it tomorrow. That is how the observer can agree, disagree, or modify the thoughts, right? So that's insight. That's knowledge. Insight knowledge is the same thing. We get to learn how the mind works. If we understand how the mind works, just like driving a car, we get to know better on how to manage it. That's all. And the premise in mindfulness is that, all right, this is life. This is what's happening to us. Now what? Should we be miserable or not? I know my life will end. That's for sure. I never met anyone who lived forever. Never. When? I don't know. Few days, few years. But one thing to me is important. In this life, why not be happy? Why be miserable? It is so much, makes sense for me to say, my body can feel it. It knows the difference. Let's choose the path on how I can manage my thought and emotions as it affects my body and my relationships into something called well-being. Doesn't that make sense? I mean, there are just things we cannot control, but we can control how we react to it. So, I'm going to guide you into a short meditation session here so that you get to see for yourself. Now, the sati, or the mindfulness part, the right way, the proper way, the way it is explained in the old textbook, it's not relaxation. I already told you. So bring that mental clarity, energy of concentration inside of relaxation, and then shift into the detached observer pose. Okay? Detached observer pose. I'm going to lead you on how to really understand what that is experientially, so that you can understand the concept, but you're going to be able to understand it as you're doing it. So what I'm going to ask you to do 3 times is to do this. And now I'm going to ask you to stop. So here's the narrative. Take a look. You're controlling your breath. Now stop and just observe. And you'll see the body continue to breathe. You don't have to do anything about it. Just doing that 3 times, that shift is one of the skill that you will acquire from meditation to be able to shift from the subjective into detached observer pose. And what's so powerful about this is to allow you to disengage whenever you want to from vortex that can take you down, that was prompted by this thought that shows up on its own because of conditioning. This is how I learned I'm supposed to react to this phenomena. Give you some time to change that, but in the meanwhile, when it shows up, that's what you do. Shift it, gain control of it. When you do that, you can gain control of it instead of being controlled by your thought. Does that make sense? So let's do this. I'm going to lead you, okay? Let's begin. Good, stop. Okay? Feel that? Feel that? You see the body is moving, the breathing by itself. You don't have to do anything. You can just observe it, right? Let's do it one more time. Stop. That was just for good measure. Now let's do this. And you can close your eyes if you like so that you can be immersed in it. Stop. Bring clarity, energy of concentration. And notice the body is breathing on its own. Isn't that interesting? Now you're in the observer pose. You're not engaged. You're not manipulating. You're not judging. And you're just staying there with the breath. That's it. That's all. That's all there is to it. Just stay with the breath. Ask your mind to stay with the breath. Just observe breathing in. Just observe breathing out. Simply observing breathing in, breathing out. The experience of breathing in your body. Simply that. Now, you'll notice the mind will produce thoughts, might even hijack you. No problem. Whenever that happens, just bring your attention back to the breath again and again. That is the practice. Let's do this for 5 minutes. Every time it wanders away, no problem. Just bring it back again and again. So here, with this process, you're honing a skill of taking control of your mind after it's being taken away by thought or emotions and bring it back to where you want to bring your mind towards. So in this case, when sadness arises, grief show up on its own, this is the very same skill, action that you can use to reorient your mind towards things that are wonderful, that brings positive feeling, that is healing, that improve well-being instead of self-harming. As you do this practice again and again, your skill will improve, gaining control over your mind that can influence your emotions and your well-being. 1 more minute. Okay, on the count of 3, I'll end this session, but just stay still as we begin contemplation, which is an integral component of mindfulness practice. Through contemplation, you gain the skill of learning on your own. One, 2, 3. Please stay still as you reflect back on your experience just now. What have I learned? How was that? How did the mind work? Would it behave the same way outside of this formal meditation practice? Can you imagine utilizing what you have learned, what you have gained, applying it towards real life, everyday challenges? Imagine, visualize it. Maybe what you're going to do today. How is this going to help you today? Of gaining control of your thought and emotions. So that ends the meditation session. So friends, in summary, we have learned today that to do anything in life, we need knowledge and skill. And we deeply discovered the knowledge about grief, about the fundamental forces of survival and passing on the genes. We learned about the difference between grieving and depression. We learned that we're not alone. Animals too experience grieving. And there are many different ways, methods on how different cultures approach grieving and healing. There are many articles, resources in this beautiful library. You can learn more because it's a well-studied subject about grief. Mary Connors, one. Kubler-Ross, another. David Kessler, another one. We learned about realizing there are things that we make meaning, understanding about what reality is. And it's rather flexible. We understand different examples on how people bring positive meaning from loss. We learn from mindfulness, which its main focus is about the mind, because grieving is a mental situation. It's not a cut, it's not a bruise. It's a mental phenomena. We learn about the 5 aggregates of clinging, on how we make sense, reality. We learned all kinds of possibilities from choosing now not to shoot ourselves with the second arrow. There are things we cannot control, but there are things we can control. We can control how we react to things that happens in our life that we cannot control. And through meditation, we get to see how the mind works ourselves and understand how the mind behaves. With such knowledge and skills, hopefully this is going to be something that you're going to have for the rest of your life. that will change, allow you to be able to be more in control of your life destiny, because it's not worth it to be miserable. And like to wish all of you to be happy. Thank you. Any question?
Do you feel that some folks, out of a sense of guilt, end up shooting themselves in the second arrow as a mechanism by which they can, punishing themselves for not for failing something? And for example, I lost my mother within the last year, and I look back and I wonder if I could have kept her alive, if I made a better decisions. The part of my mind knows that it would have been very difficult to do so, but my emotional mind blames myself to some degree as well. And is that what you mean by shooting yourself in the second arrow and causing self-harm?
Yes. So one thing that is clear, um, in my personal life experience, sir, I had difficulty changing other people's mind. Controlling other people's mind, it's something that I try not to attempt because I failed too many times. So that makes me realize it's very difficult to control. I can convince, I can try to market, try to sell something, but they don't always buy it, right? So that's just what happened, right? And of course, uh, the one option would be to feel guilty because, oh, I could have, I should have, and but it just didn't happen, right? So to me, I don't understand how can be guilty of something that they have no control about. I don't get that. So to me, that feeling of guilt is probably because of learning. Maybe somehow, sometime in our life, we're exposed to or see a movie or learn about that is a good way to react. I'm not too sure. I don't have an explanation, but that is a possibility. But one thing for sure, that feeling does not feel good. And to me, having realized it does not feel good, and here I'm still alive, I would like to choose a way to end my misery. I would like to be happy with whatever I have left of my life. And that can be something that propel you to go out and to community, helping others, just like Victor, who feel like he could help other people. Because what you have gone through, to me, is what I call an asset, a valuable asset, because you have first-hand experience. You didn't read it from the book. You know the sequence. You understand the deep feeling of guilt and all that kind of thing, and how you would be able to help others that experience the same thing. And there are many young people. Many young people can really benefit from your experience, sir. So that's just my response. Welcome, sir. Thank you for your question. Appreciate it. Any more questions? Any question from the online? Well, in that case, thank you, everyone. May you all be happy. Take care.
Hi, my name is Tamara, and I work with Surja. Whoa, how do we do this? So that was the question slide, but this is the slide that I want you to see. Whoops, how come it didn't happen? Anyway, Surja, can you? This is This is kind of strange here. Let me see if I can pull this up for you. We have a slide. We have something for you at the back if you wish. And you can sign up for Surja's Beginner's Guide to Mindfulness Meditation. So if you want, I have a sign-up sheet there. There's a sample there. There's also books that the librarian has put out, which are ones that you might find helpful. How other people maybe have dealt with the grieving process, how other people have found meaning in life, how other people work with mindfulness meditation. So let me pull up this slide if I can.
So I wrote a thorough, complete essay about meditation, and you're welcome to have that. Probably like 4 pages long.